For the New York steak, it's such a classic trophy steak. I'm gonna pair it with a very simple technique. Pan, sear, baste, rest, eat it. It's probably the fastest way to cook a steak out of all the steak techniques for our campaign. New York steaks come in a lot of different thicknesses. I like 1.5 inch thick steak for something like this. I've got my 2 favorite cuts. There's probably 4 or 5 steaks about this good on a full strip towards the front end of the strip. I like them like this because I've got this really nice marbled loin. It can often even get leaner as it goes back to the sirloin. So it's super marbly. From here, you could just throw them in a pan. Folks who do that will be very unhappy with all this fat everywhere. There's also this huge tendon right here that's really chewy. It's like a tough rubber band. You'll never get rid of that. Some chefs or steak cooks trim this tail and then score the fat here. Kinda better than, it's one step better than just throwing the steak in the pan. I don't really like that because it's never really gonna fully render, and then you still, under your scored crispy fat, still have this chewy rubber band. Also, this chewy rubber band and the fat cap prevent the actual loin from getting a real nice even sear, because as this rubber band heats up, it kind of chews, it bends and warps, and that will create that cupping sometimes in your steak, so you get those like blonde spots, or maybe one side's bowed and one side's convex. I want a really nice, tidy eating experience, so I'm going to trim this whole thing down right now, show you what I'm talking about. This fat's pretty good. This is thin. There might be some stuff like this this is connected to the ribs here. This is tough, chewy stuff. You can even feel it. It's hard. It's like a rubber band. Connective tissue usually has grain to it. It's because it's fibers, you know? So the fat will just be, and you can even touch it, smooth, but even this rubber band has got fine lines in it. It's all grains. Looking around the steak, this is all pretty nice. This is marbling. This is really nice. I've got some chewy rubber bands here. What I like to do is basically cut all this off. I'm leaving just a teeny bit of fat here on this front end. Everything else, I get rid of. I totally get rid of this. Watch this. This is like blasphemy to a lot of steak cooks and chefs. They're like, no, getting rid of that. It's gonna be better. Trust me, it's gonna be a lot better. So this guy now has super fine, tender fat, really nice marbled loin. It's gonna sear and caramelize really nicely. And I don't have to get rid of this fat. You can cut it into cubes, all these little guys. You can decide if you want these fat cubes, crispy, crunchy little kind of chicharroni things, or if you want them like supple and succulent, fat little nuggets. You get to choose. You cut through the fat and you run into this tough rubber band. That's gonna happen on the plate. You're gonna be eating it and you're gonna go, oh man, this New York's so tough and chewy. Cut it off before you cook it. It's gonna sear better, cook more evenly, and it's gonna eat much nicer. Same thing, I'm just gonna clean up this guy. And then starting on this back end, I'm gonna get rid of that full tendon here. All of it. That's fat and that's creamy, and then you see the lines. So that tells you that's fat, that's tendon, those grains that are going through it. Okay, that's it. You can have a butcher do this too when you buy them. You're gonna see these like sear up so nice, and what happens now is 100% of the steak is edible on the plate. Same thing, I got some fat nuggets here. So that's it for the trimming. New York strip and tenderloin benefit from a quick cook. So I'm gonna do the quickest cook I know, which is cook it in a super hot pan and let it rest. That's what we're gonna do. Make sure I have my tools I need. Preheating the pan. I need a spoon for some basting, maybe a fork for turning. Butter, herbs. I like to do garlic and shallot. Cut like almost halfway through, but it's not really halfway through. It's like the top third or quarter of the cloves. It just opens them up and they'll start to caramelize and brown really nicely. And then I like shallot because it makes it like a little sugary and sweet. So I'll take the little ends off. Let's see, shallots are always a little bit different. Cut them that way. Peel this one, sometimes it's tough papery leather layer on the outside to make sure you get some tender, not chewy, lignin-y. Salt. I'm not even gonna do pepper this time. Just keep it like herby and sweet thyme, a little Frenchy style. A little bit of oil to start. It's like grapeseed oil, some hot oil. New York steak. In. Another thing when you're cooking steak or anything in a pan, people tend to like, just because of the way they hold things, they put it in and let go of it and it slaps towards you. You always want to put stuff in and let it drop away from you so it doesn't splash oil on your arms or your tummy. If you want crispy fat, start with the fat now. If you want, like some people really like a jammy, fudgy kind of like little nugget of fat, then I would just put them in the last like 5 minutes, you know, because you just want to kind of heat them up a little bit. I'm going to add them now. I might take them out too. We'll see. I'm going to cook them a little bit. Might pull them out because they're going to render, and I'm going to use that fat to cook the other stuff. But I like a little chew on my fat nuggets. So we can just take a peek. That's kind of the progress we have so far. I'm going to also get garlic in wherever you need to make room for it. Just put like flat side down. Garlic needs to cook a little bit longer than the shallots. So this is what you would call high delta cooking. So the delta between two temperatures. So if you've got a super hot grill, 400, 450 degrees for the pan here, and I want a steak that lands perfectly at 125 degrees, there's a big variance or big delta between those two temperatures, which means you got to get your timing just right. Where sous vide is like, if you want the steak to be 125, you put it in 125 water bath. It's like zero delta or low delta cooking. So I'm saying that because we're going to get a good sear going. We might take them out for a second, but I want to get good sear. Probably take them out, get butter frying, and then baste the heck out of them, and they rest and they're done. But I don't want to spend too much time in the pan. New York's just going to get chewier and tougher. See, that's already a nice sear. Let's look for reference what the temperature is. I'm just going to take them both off for now, just for demonstration purposes only. Some people go like this. That's totally not what you want to do for a probe. Some people go in the middle. The middle will tell you it's ice cold. You want to go kind of like right under the surface. Under the surface will tell you where the interior is going. So if you put it under the surface and you're like, ooh, it's 92, 100, you know, I've got some time to play. But if it's starting to get up to 120, 130 on the surface, that means it's starting to get real gray and overcooked already. So I like to know where I'm at under the surface, not in the middle. The middle will follow the surface later, you know. I'm also gonna take these fats out. These are looking really good to me. This is how I like them. They're like fat croutons. So all you folks who like your New York with your fat, you can still have it. Like I said, nobody's taking it away from you. I'm gonna put these guys back in. Quick sear. And then we're gonna start basting. I'm gonna put shallots in. Okay, one flip. On your initial sear, you don't need a ton of dark heat. It's starting to get a little crust. It's been, what, 5 minutes? I'm going to take these guys out. I'm just going to let them hang out here for a second. They're not done. They're still, you know, probably, I don't know, 80 degrees in the middle or colder. 70 degrees, so it's very raw in the middle. I'm going to get these veggies cooked a little bit, and then I'm going to throw butter in, and I want to get all the moisture out of the butter before I throw the steak in. Because if I throw butter in with the steak, it's going to steam. And I don't want the steam. I want browning. I want caramelization. You get some butter going. This is that classic OG technique. The moisture is good for veggies though, you know? Like all the moisture, that's gonna really speed up the cooking of garlic and shallot. It's gonna start to turn them nice and sweet. See, now that this is all steam vapor coming off, and once you'll start to see it kind of poof, it starts to wisp away. That's just maybe a little bit moisture coming from the garlic and onions, and all the proteins are starting to foam up. Now we're ready to put meat back in. Put that lighter side down. If you have a gas range, you can cook or baste like this with the pan lifted, you know, and it's going to keep heating and keep heating. And sometimes you might need to come off your gas range or pull off to the side. Induction, if you lift up any induction, it's going to turn off, you know. So, okay, you can do a little flip. I also don't like to let it sit on any one side too long. If you get into a situation like whatever your stove's doing and it got too cold, I would encourage you to take them out, because I'm not making browning progress if it's not frying, you know. It's cooking the New York, but it's not making browning frying process. So I'm watching this temperature here. I want to make sure I get this real hot again. And these are still kind of, they're pulsing, they're cooking. I bet we're like, I don't know, 110 or something, maybe 100. So we're still ways away from cooked New York. We got time. Okay, make some room. We'll put our New Yorks back in. See that fry and that sizzle? That's what you want. Lots of nice like red amber colors in there. I like that. So about here is where I would add a ton of thyme. They're almost done. These are a little woody on the bottom. I'm just going to chop them like that. That goes in. And I even like to put all this, put it all over the steak. Okay, we're probably done. I'm just gonna let them hang out here. 1, 2, 119, that's pretty good. 113. They're gonna keep cooking. So the more extreme the cooking environment to the temperature you want, the sooner you wanna pull them before they overcook. So this stuff, you can just kinda put on top, let it hang out, they'll rest. You can just like pour all this all over. And I'm not gonna waste it. We'll use that butter later too. Maybe I put my fat back in here just to hang out, but the heat's off, not cooking anymore. If you want to be very precise about exactly which temperature you want, you're gonna make sure you check the center of it right before your end, and then when it's probably about 10 degrees under where you really want it, that's when you're gonna pull the steak. And you're gonna put it on a cool plate, a room temperature plate, or another room temperature pan, warm, not hot, because if you put it somewhere hot, they're gonna keep cooking. And so we can't even just put one of these in. You know, almost all probes have alarms these days too. It's 120 or so now. So I don't know if an alarm would benefit you here, but you just let it sit 5-10 minutes. You know, the temperature's gonna keep cruising up a little bit. Our New York is nice and rested. I dumped all the butter all over this guy, so I'm just gonna take this rack. It's nice to have a rack like this. I'm just gonna put it back in this pan for a second. I'll heat that butter back up because we're gonna want some of it in a second. So, New York, nice and simple muscle grain structure. From here, it's totally vertical or perpendicular to the board. So going this way won't benefit it anymore, won't make it any more tender. So again, I just do like slight bias, always cuts the muscle grain even a little bit shorter. There's no tricky muscles to work around because it's all one nice loin. If you didn't trim the fat cap, you'd have fat here, gristle here, and then you'd have real tough, chewy tendon here. We don't have any of that. It's 100% edible on the plate. We're just gonna slice it, serve it, add our little fat Crispies. We'll be so happy. Oh yeah. So again, New York is kind of between tenderloin and ribeye from like a cooking perspective. Tenderloin I like very rare. Ribeye I like more medium. A New York like this, kind of in between, medium rare, you know? All these goodies, I just like to tuck them in and eat them. And then fat nuggets. That's our New York steak. Classic, pan sear, based. Yummy. I want some of these fat nuggets. Ooh! Okay, that's our classic New York strip with a classic steak cooked in a pan. The only thing we're really doing differently is we're cutting the fat cap off and giving you total control if you want. No fat, crispy fat, chewy fat, it's up to you. Let's try it. Look at that, little purple. Not bad, huh, for a pan cook? You can see like it's not gray and hammered around the edges. Just a nice little brown crust. Nice even cooking for the most part all the way through, edge to edge. These little fat nuggets. You can see how clean that slice is. It goes this way, exactly. I cut it just like this. It's just like this. That's the part that everybody's always like, arr, 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 and then they're on their plate trying to cut it off even, you know? It's this stuff. So we got rid of it. It's much cleaner eating. Oh, look who's here. Oh, you woke up? You ready? That's our show.
Subscribe to our channel and visit chefsteps.com for more tips, recipes, guides, and tools to help you level up in the kitchen.